Now we're going to talk about gauge and tension. Gauge is the number of stitches that you need to achieve per inch. Here I have 3 samples. They're all the same stitch that we just did. And see, with these samples you would get a rather wide variety. I've measured this out with the tape measure, and what we get is, for this sample, we get 30 stitches per 6 inches. With this sample, we get 10 stitches per 6 inches. And with this sample, we get 16 stitches per 6 inches. So you can see that this is one place in crochet that size really does matter. Now, the larger the hook and the larger the yarn, really the faster you're going to go, because your rows are taller and you don't need quite as many stitches across, so you'll go back and forth a little bit faster. And the tinier the thread and the hook, the shorter the stitches, so it will take more rows to achieve the same height. It will take more stitches across to achieve the same width. And when you read a pattern, it's often very, very specific about the type of yarn and the size of hook that you're going to need to use for the project. And it is important to follow those instructions because they've already done the measurements to get the correct gauge. So you can see it really affects your work, and so it's important to follow these instructions. If, in fact, you were going to change it, say try to do the same pattern with a larger hook and a larger yarn, you would probably need to decrease the number of stitches and measure quite a bit, do some swatching and some math, and then also measure the number of rows versus what you would achieve from, say, the pattern. The other thing that can affect the size of your work is tension. And tension is basically how tightly you crochet or how loosely you crochet. And I've seen people who have a very, very tight tension, and although that gives it quite a bit of structure, you find yourself fighting your stitches and fighting to get your hook through the stitches because it's just so tight. On the other hand, if it's just way too loose, it doesn't seem to have a lot of form or structure. So we're trying to achieve almost down the middle, not too tight, not too loose. The important thing to remember is to be consistent. Try to keep your stitches nice and even and consistent, and you'll get a really nice result. So all these things are going to affect your gauge and your tension, but you can see what you can achieve with different styles of yarn and the textures and the weights, and even the patterns that you can achieve just by changing the yarn and the hook size.